Welcome to all the event attendees and consultants who are here today. I'm glad that the ICMCI team has given me the opportunity to share some of my experiences with the digital developments in the management consulting industry, especially with the digital transformation and digital leadership approaches. Thank you also to Robert and the other ICMCI members, and I hope these events will be helpful to consultants. The majority of the time, when we refer to digital transformation, we refer to the use of new technology to transform processes. Still, the role of the leader in implementing the digital culture in organizations shouldn't be overlooked. During today's lecture, Mohammadreza and I discussed an effective approach that helps us in our role as HAAMI leaders. I should explain why data-driven approaches in advancing our company are important before I discuss data-driven approaches to advancing our company. HAAMI was originally intended to be a digital transformation consulting firm, which meant before we could offer our clients HAAMI consulting services. We suggest that we should also implement data-driven process within the organization. We therefore decided to design our company's organization structure around data-driven governance principle as the owners of the organization and the managers of each HAAMI's specialist departments. We must be able to establish benchmark of each aspect of digital transformation in our organization. A digital transformation and a digital leadership approach should facilitate relationship and solidarity between consultants, clients, consulting services, and new technologies. Management consulting companies that are interested in using innovation technologies and digital transformation should begin by assessing their current status, including the variety of processes, strategic planning, and internal environment interactions. Based on the needs and concern of clients, identify concerns and potential of management consulting services and use technology to make them more productive. Examine digital transformation consulting services in 4 categories and examine the needs for digital development in each process. Consulting services are provided by HAAMI Consulting in the areas of marketing, human resources, and structure about strategy. And HAAMI Tech is a collection of specialized technology departments, including artificial intelligence, data analysis, blockchain, VR, IoT, and technical teams. Sustainable development is the focus of HAAMI sustainability, and leadership development in the focus of HAAMI growth. The management consulting operation at HAAMI includes several sections. So we reviewed our customer's travels plan as some of processes tend to be customer-oriented, and their point of effect is on the project acceptance process and customer experience process, such as marketing, that we were able to use the analytics approaches of our customer data and business intelligence dashboard, successful experiences on footprint projects of them. Some processes have an impact on the organization's internal consultants, such as the requirement process and the brainstorming process that we were able to use to manage all the meetings using virtual platform and online. Some management consulting process include internal process, which include communication processes between consultant and our clients. In these processes, we decide to create dedicated private platform with the cooperation of our client. The smart platform has a smart assistant who first asks the audience about a problem in their organization, and then set up a digital confidentiality contract and email the audience. Then decides based on a smart text mining that which consultants and departments which will be responsible for the project. This process then collects the necessary information for the consultant through intelligence data collection, web scraping, and the consulting team can provide more accurate advice. At HAAMI, we have even designed our consulting contracts based on smart concepts, and customers and clients within the platform can also pay the digital currencies. In fact, we use VPA process, virtual personal assistant, to advance our design. We also use the Internet of Things system to collect and analyze warehouse and factory data through them to better advance the intelligence process of providing services for the development and smarting of our clients' business, especially in large industries. In the following, you will hear my colleague use explanation. Thank you.
Thank you, Hadis. Hello, everyone. Is there any problem with my voice? And can I start, Robert? Thank you. I hope you and your loved ones are well. Thank you for being with us so far in this event. I hope that today's content has been useful and effective for you, and that you will accompany us until the end of the program. Following the conversations of my dear colleague and friend Hadis, I will be at your service for a few minutes to talk about the virtualization capabilities and capacities of management consulting services and our experience in this regard. We all know that today's world is in a state of uncertainty, and I believe the complexity of the business world increases the need for consulting services. In the meantime, for years, consultants have traditionally provided their services face-to-face, regardless of their field. However, due to the change in the approach of the recipients of these services, which we call them clients, consultants are also expected to adopt new approaches in this area. Hadis and I are in the charge of leading 100% of the projects, and there has been almost no projects in the last 5 years that we do not oversee. In addition, we manage many projects ourselves. We know that service virtualization is not just a feature, but a growing need. Virtualization has its advantages and disadvantages. If I want to point out some of these benefits, the most important thing to discuss is costs. It is estimated that 70% of projects fail. This is a global statistics provided by TeamStage. Of these failures, 55% point to inadequate cost and budgeting. So virtualization will help to save money. More complex situations require faster reactions. The turbulent world has increased the need for agility. Agility is not just a concept in project management, but a new approach to getting things done. Virtualization will definitely have a huge impact on the speed of project progress. The COVID and people's fears and anxieties about next pandemics have raised health concerns more than ever. Virtualization helps us to address these concerns appropriately. You all know that each client has their own story, and those consultants who provide services that are not just distinctive, but personalized can maintain their competitive advantage in the long run. Virtualization will give us maximum flexibility. The possibility of standardizing services, and of course, not all of them, and a scalability of solutions to solve general problems are among the advantages. The birth of best practices and the acceleration of benchmarking, along with the customization of services, are among the other benefits that can be discussed as well. Of course, in order to judge any concept correctly, it is better to talk about its disadvantages or risks, in addition to pointing out its advantages. Usually when it comes to remote service providing or eliminating face-to-face interactions, the first things to do is how effective the solution is. A consultant always considers his or her concern as impact and tries to get the most out of it. The first factor is always the need for the effectiveness of remote solutions. The second issue that is the cornerstone of any relationship between a consultant and employer is trust. If the right and lasting trust are not formed, it is not the best and most effective solution that you will implement. They will not give good results in practice too. The motivation to implement will also disappear. We know that training employees along with coaching leaders will ultimately help ensure that solutions are implemented efficiently and also effectively. There is a risk that virtualization will reduce growth opportunities, or at least call into question the possibility of evaluation. The last two things that I have to mention will be the time and place of presenting and implementing a solution that is highly dependent on the client and consultant, or maybe put the whole projects in a risky manner due to an unfavorable approach. I hope I have not made you tired so far. The question that most of you have in mind will probably be, so which consulting services, project management phases, and activities can be virtualized? And in the meantime, what components should be considered? I want to say that you are not alone. We and our consultants in HAAMI also had this question and did extensive research to try to answer it. Unfortunately, not much in-depth research has been done in this field, and no research without experience is likely to respond appropriately. Experience, we will talk about this based on our experience, and we will try to tell you all the aspects that we have mentioned. Naturally, there will be many items that can be added to this list. When it comes to evaluating the potential of the virtualization of services and processes, three main components must be considered. The first is the employer. The experience of the employer in receiving in-person services will definitely affect his approach. This case shows how much the employer is willing to use virtual services and show their openness. The complexity of the issue that the employer is dealing with is directly related to the level of stress. The success of in-person services in such cases is likely to be doubly challenging. How much do you need to interact with the client? More interaction will increase the need for face-to-face meetings. You might say to yourself that if virtual methods can provide effective interaction, then there is no problem. But note that experience of all of us in using virtual services is shorter than the life of coronavirus. As mentioned in the previous section, the issue of trust is not something that can be easily overlooked. Naturally, an employer who trusts you will be also receptive to your solutions. This not that means that employer who receives your services for the first time must see you face to face. But I just want to point out the potential for success in virtualization that needs to be considered. And finally, the urgency of the issue that his client is dealing with and their desire to receive virtual services. The second component to consider is the consultant or consulting firm. Some of you may be providing services by being a freelancer, or maybe providing services through a large family of consultants like HAAMI. In any case, you are one of the three vertices of your service virtualization triangle. Your experience in providing virtual services is the most important thing to consider. Organization culture is no exception. What is your approach to service virtualization? How do you feel when I talk to you about virtualizing your services? What do you think about it, or how you deal with it has a huge impact on the success of your way. What are the relationships within the team with other consultants, project leaders, and analysts? Not emotionally, but in terms of need for more interactions or lower level of interaction. Naturally, interaction is another point that you should pay attention in order to experience more effective virtualization. How are levels of cooperation between individuals defined? Do not ignore this issue. And the last point, and not perhaps the least important, how is project management done? The third component, which in my opinion is less considered, but not less important than the previous two components, is the consulting task itself. The complexity of the activity and the need for more attention naturally require double interaction. Task manager softwares have been developed for the number of people on the planet. I do not know which one you are familiar with. Have you used any of them to recommend to your friends? More important than the task management tool is your approach to managing your task, which determines how credible its virtualization capacity can. The time dedicated to each task is also crucial. Remember, I talked about the urgency of the employer issue. In this section, I want to mention the urgency of a task. As a rule, the urgency of an issue has a significant impact on its virtualization capability. I also want to mention the delivery method of the task that will be highly dependent on whether you want to deliver online or in person. This is the best place to make a final decision. Perhaps it would have been better to consider it from the beginning. I hope you do not repeat our mistakes. The last things I want to mention briefly is the types of projects that we deal with in HAAMI, and in determining whether they can be followed completely remotely or whether we must receive the employer in our office, they have a decisive role. To compare the projects with each other, we pay attention to the following points. Project duration. Short vs long-term. Long-term projects that require interaction with multiple stakeholders may require face-to-face interaction. Urgent vs non-urgent. When it comes to urgency, you will usually hear that virtual is the best option, but it is not. In my opinion, in addition to urgency, you should think about your distance for our employer too. New employer vs local customers. No need to assess how important the first impression is. I do not want to say that you must meet new customers every time, but maybe it is better if you and your clients are in a good condition to meet them once for the initial meetings. Governmental vs private. In our field of activity in the MENA region has shows that governmental customers generally welcome in-person services. I do not want to put all the blame on the culture, but it can be said that the culture of the client organization plays a decisive role. Some other projects, the last one I mean is about 30 seconds. Yes. Some other projects will be to determine the strategy of organizational maturity in various fields, determine strategic pillars and provide a roadmap, change management and implementing solutions. All of these projects seem to, it's better to done in person. Finally, thank you all for attending this event and listening to my speech. I hope what has been proposed would have contained insights for you. We will be very happy to benefit from your experiences to enrich to their content. In order to gain more insight about digital consulting service delivery, I want to invite you on following the speech of Christopher. Thank you very much, Robert.
Thank you very much for this very good presentation, very comprehensive too, and very dense too.